Among the people who appeared on the radar is a young man who I had not known, as in Ghanaian parlance we say, from Adam. But he showed up on the radar, surprisingly, over a very short period of time. And I'm sure most of you are aware by now that I'm one of the first leading political figures in this country to have created a political show for myself. So I've created a show called the Alan Primetime Show, and that is in English, and then the local language version of it is Muntie Alan. When our good Lord blesses me with the opportunity of leading this country, I'll continue with those two shows. To have an opportunity to continuously engage with the people of Ghana and not to wait till an annual press conference or media encounter. So this will be hopefully a weekly show or a fortnightly show. Now, for the first episode of the English show, I was trying to look for an appropriate person to host this show. Incidentally, my friend and brother, Kwesi Pratt, had offered the Pan-African Television Network to me to use to host the show. And I was struggling to find an appropriate person because the objective of this show was to interrogate and speak to the great transformational plan that I had prepared as my vision document and blueprint for Ghana. So it required a certain balance of intellect and I would say ingenuity and innovation to be able to host that show. After midnight, when it was still difficult to find somebody had suggested that I call a young man named Kwame Osudanso, who is one of the anchors in the Pan-African Television Network. And interestingly, this was around 2 a.m. when I made a call to him. Surprisingly, he said, "Oh, boss, I'll do it, and I can do it." So I showed up, and he showed up. And it was amazing how he had been able to internalize the components of the GTP to be able to lead that discussion within such a short period of time. And he also had a certain disposition, showing interest in the subject matter. And he did very well the first time. So when it was time for us to have the second episode, and I was looking for somebody else to host it, he gladly offered to continue hosting it. And then he hosted the third one subsequently. So then I started thinking that this was good material, because I'm somebody who has very high standards, and anybody who has worked with me would appreciate that I'm not easy to please. And so I realized that this young man has started ticking all the boxes that I was looking for. But I hadn't interrogated his background to see whether he responded to all the elements of the criteria that I had identified. But there's some divinity around leadership, which is not always apparent to us. And even though I'm not qualified to be a prophet, I know that there can be no leadership without prophetic revelation. politics and religion are two sides of the same coin. So when finally, 2 nights before, I had to make a decision, this young man suddenly showed up on my radar. And I said, this must be divine processing and artificial intelligence. So the combination of divinity, strategic intuition, and artificial intelligence pointed directly to this young man.